you to know something profound. I love you dearly, my brother. Uncertainty shrouds what you'll discover on the kitchen counter apart from this journal. Hopefully nothing unsettling awaits, but it wouldn't hurt to check beneath the counter, ensuring no stray fingers have slipped beneath. Our phone conversation has just concluded, and you're en route to my location. This granted me a window of opportunity to pen this letter and conclude what I've initiated. I hope you'll comprehend that my threat to incinerate this dwelling with me inside was a desperate ploy to compel your journey. It seemed the sole means to coax you away from the city and towards this rural farmhouse. Explaining over the phone that I've unraveled the mystery surrounding our mother's disappearance would likely have led you to question my sanity. The answer to this enigma resides within the confines of the kitchen drawer. By the time you arrive, I will have already departed. I'd prefer to bid you farewell in person, but my current physical state is the result of a deliberate, self-inflicted process spanning the past 24 hours. Witnessing me, or rather what remains of me, would undoubtedly be a harrowing shock for you. You are aware that Carol and the children relocated to her new partner's abode last year. What you may not be privy to is the continuous downward spiral of my existence since that moment. Or perhaps the descent began long before her affair came to light. She contends that I pushed her and the kids away, a claim I cannot refute. Those closest to us often discern our unraveling long before we acknowledge our own descent into chaos. Shortly after their departure, I lost my employment, ceased paying my bills, withdrew from social interactions, regrettably even with you. I discontinued almost everything, save for one unfortunate companion, the bottle. In hindsight, I find myself more akin to our father than I ever wished to be. Hence, it's no surprise that I was intoxicated when Carol arrived at my apartment, demanding my signature on the divorce papers. Predictably, it did not transpire smoothly. The bottle ensured that. So I fled and sought refuge here. As far as I can tell, no one has set foot inside since our removal and placement in the boys' home. It's disheartening to consider that this house never had a chance at a second life as a haven for a joyful family. In the midst of our bleak childhood, I held on to the memory of how Mom meticulously preserved this home during our youth. Imagine my disappointment when I returned 2 days ago to find it in a state of disrepair. The ravages of time and inclement weather had taken their toll, rendering it a sickly, ailing structure. In truth, the entire neighborhood appears to have succumbed to a similar malaise, as if our house's blight spread like a contagion, infecting the entire town. And as you can discern, the interior has fared even worse. No electricity, no running water, the air is tainted with filth, mold, and the acrid scent of abandonment. The wooden floors have decayed, the painted walls bear the scars of neglect, and the once vibrant wallpaper peels away. I didn't linger much, for there was little I wished to recollect. Drunk as I was, my objective remained clear. I entered the kitchen, a grim scene of rat droppings and cobwebs, and was almost disappointed when I found the exterior of the kitchen drawer in a state of decay, its steel handle corroded with rust. However, the shock I anticipated awaited me inside the drawer, empty, pristine, unaltered by the passage of time. Behold, Thomas, but heed my caution. Do not place anything within the recess. Not yet. With profound curiosity, I examined the drawer. Initially, I endeavored to extract it by sliding it along its tracks, but the drawer adamantly resisted any attempts at removal. Subsequently, I explored the interior of the cabinet, encountering nothing but resolute and sleek surfaces. My scrutiny extended to the metallic wheels and slides, revealing their immaculate luster and unblemished state. It defied reason that the drawer remained immovable, and even more perplexing that it retained such remarkable condition after languishing for 2 decades in neglect. Then again, as you may recall, this drawer carries with it a storied past. Mother incessantly bemoaned the cabinet's expanse as inadequate for safeguarding important documents. Nonetheless, it became the repository for sundry items that both she and Father deposited within its confines. It was Mother who coined the phrase, claiming that the drawer possessed a voracious appetite. Invoices, correspondence, writing implements. Whenever Father erupted in anger over a misplaced bill or any document of import, Mother would attest that she had consigned it to the drawer, only to find it vanished. Father's frustration often culminated in violence. Later she would regale us with tales of the drawer consuming whatever transgressions had merited Father's fury. We would concur, though it pains me to reflect on how Mother must have suffered, patronized by her own progeny while nursing blackened eyes and swollen lips. Summon fortitude, dear sibling, for you must now peruse the words I've long been denied the opportunity to utter in person. In honoring your wishes, I have harbored a dark secret, one unknown even to Carol and the law enforcement officers who interrogated us that fateful night. For on the evening Father took Mother's life, I bore witness to the drawer consuming something. Father had spent the entire day in the company of a bottle when an unexpected visitor arrived at our farmhouse, delivering an envelope. You and Mother were upstairs. The visitor departed, leaving Father to open the envelope before my eyes. Given our perennial financial struggles, my astonishment must have mirrored Father's upon beholding the treasury of crisp $100 bills. It marked my inaugural encounter with two phenomena: the denomination of $100 and Father's smile, a jubilant sight as he counted aloud the sum of $5,000. Understand that this was no shared moment between us. I was merely an observer. Drunk beyond cognition, Father remained oblivious to my presence, tucked away in the corner, laboring on my homework. I watched him conceal the cash within the envelope, which he subsequently placed inside the kitchen cabinet's drawer, sealing it shut. He then retreated to the living room, eager to relay the news to his faithful companion, the bottle, and to make a phone call. Mother descended the stairs and commenced her household chores, starting with the dishes. I solemnly affirm, dear brother, she never opened that drawer. Yet when Father concluded his call and returned to the kitchen, his first action was to wrench open the drawer. The expression etched upon his countenance said it all. An inferno of rage ignited within him like a flipped switch. Father hurled the drawer's contents onto the floor, leaving naught behind. He accused her of thievery. She remained bewildered, bereft of any comprehension of his allegations. Nonetheless, that did not deter him from inflicting pain upon her. In due course, my father finally noticed my presence. I endured several painful blows as I desperately denied any involvement in the alleged theft of his money. He promptly banished me to my room, where I remained, paralyzed with fear, while my mother valiantly fought her losing battle for life. Your daring escape through your bedroom window to seek help from the neighbors and the police has always been a source of admiration for me. It was a relief when Dad was apprehended, literally caught red-handed with bloodstains covering him, the saw he presumably used for his gruesome actions, and the entire kitchen, except for a peculiarly untouched drawer. The authorities remarked that it was as if Dad had a hidden compartment in that drawer where he concealed body parts. Yet the mystery remained unsolved. No one could determine what became of those dismembered fragments. Mom was gone. Every trace of her vanished, leaving only the gruesome reminder of the crime, which was ironically tragic because she despised a messy kitchen. Mom would have shuddered at the thought of being reduced to a mere bloodstain one day. Despite his inebriated state during his confession, Dad's admission to the officers on the scene that he had killed his wife in a fit of rage was admissible in court. He consistently refused to admit to dismembering her, despite the overwhelming evidence of blood. Her bloodied clothing was discovered strewn across the kitchen floor. When questioned about how he disposed of her remains, from his initial confession to his final words in a prison hospital, he always gave the same cryptic response: "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Yesterday, I awoke on the decaying kitchen floor, having passed out from alcohol on my first night back in 26 years. I immediately procured another bottle, mirroring my father's behavior. I returned to the scene of the crime, bottle in hand, and bared my soul to it. Why hadn't I attempted to save Mom? Did Dad truly do what I suspect he did with her remains? Does the drawer indeed consume its contents? Bills, letters, pens, and pencils, flesh, bones, organs, and hair. Driven to madness by unanswered questions, I conducted an experiment with the bottle as my only companion. I retrieved a pair of scissors, a rock from outside, and my vehicle registration from the car, placing all three items in the enigmatic drawer. I closed it for a brief moment before yanking it open again. Paper remained, but the scissors replaced the rock. Perplexed, I scrutinized the drawer and repeated the process. Scissors now, but no paper. On the third attempt, the drawer was empty. I hope you'll forgive the insensitivity, considering the grim context, but I was filled with excitement because I had proven Mom right. The drawer did indeed consume its contents when manipulated by the act of opening and closing. If more than one item occupied the drawer during this process, one would inevitably be consumed. If just a single item remained inside, that item would vanish. This explained why the police had never discovered Mom's body. Dad had dismembered her and used the drawer to obliterate the evidence of his heinous crime. Perhaps it started as a cruel act of vengeance, placing a part of her inside the drawer. He must have been bewildered when that portion disappeared. Then, in stubborn disbelief, he placed another piece inside. When it vanished as well, he likely saw it as a convenient means to hide the evidence of his crime. Thus, Mom became the gruesome stuffing within the drawer. The drawer consumes whatever you offer, whether it's lifeless or animate. Label it as supernatural or divine. Term the drawer however you please, but it possesses a pulse of its own. The sheer magnitude of this astonishing realization filled me with an odd exhilaration. For a brief moment I found myself smiling, much like Dad did when he stumbled upon a wad of cash. But my mood swiftly soured when the relentless pounding on the front door and Carol's shouting pierced the air. I must confess, dear brother, that I had been drowning my sorrows in alcohol all day, and Carol had become the person I despised most in the world since Dad's passing due to liver cancer. So when she hunted me down at our childhood home and stormed inside, I felt cornered, like a trapped animal facing an imminent attack. She barged into the kitchen, clutching divorce papers in her hand. It was then, in that moment, fueled by a surge of alcohol-infused rage, that I yearned to shove those divorce papers into the mysterious drawer, slam it shut, and make space for more stuffing. Fuming with anger, I began to advance towards her. However, something in the room caught my eye, illuminated by the sunlight streaming through the grimy window. A bloodstain on the countertop, a stain reminiscent of Mom. I embraced Carol, signed the divorce papers, and asked her to convey my love to the kids. She left, bewildered but somewhat satisfied. I've never been one to resort to violence, and I never will be. It dawned on me that perhaps I didn't need to drown my sorrows in alcohol like Dad did. With newfound determination, I seized the bottle and headed for the drawer. I forcefully jammed the bottle inside and shut it, despite my inebriation. I felt a slight tap, nothing more. I opened the drawer. It had devoured one of my fingers. The bottle remained, and I still had 3 out of 4 digits, but my middle finger had vanished. Strangely, there was no pain. The skin over the nub appeared smooth, as though my finger had been surgically removed and had healed over. My reaction was less one of panic and more one of frustration. I wanted my finger back, and fueled by alcohol, I did something recklessly foolish. I removed the bottle and thrust my entire hand into the drawer, hoping it would reattach my finger. With the intention of reopening the drawer to retrieve my finger, I closed it on my hand. The faint tap near the base of my thumb was subtle but profoundly significant, as the drawer deemed my palm, thumb, and remaining 3 fingers as a single offering. My hand was gone at the wrist. I gaped in disbelief at the nub on the end of my arm. Remarkably, there was no pain, but I'm fairly certain I was in shock as I shoved my arm into the drawer and demanded that it restore my hand immediately. Drunk and desperate, I forcefully closed the drawer on my arm, and then I stood up. Yes, the drawer had consumed my entire arm. Using my other hand, I explored the nub near my shoulder blade, where my arm had once been attached. I remember laughing, feeling lightheaded, and then, for the second time since my arrival, I passed out on the kitchen floor. When I awoke, there was an unusual sensation in my missing limb. I could feel all of my fingers attached to my hand, which felt reconnected to my arm. I'm not referring to phantom limbs. I mean that wherever my arm had gone, it was complete once more. I could move my missing fingers, snap with my thumb and middle finger, the first to vanish and now restored. I felt my missing hand explore an unfamiliar surface. Then I bent my arm at the elbow and felt the nub above my armpit, where my arm terminated. The drawer consumes whatever you offer, whether it's living or lifeless. This revelation leads me to believe that the drawer doesn't discriminate between the living and the dead, or even the dismembered. The end result is the same. It assembles you whole on the other side, wherever that may be. It raises further questions. Did Mom get reassembled piece by piece? And if so, could she have been restored to life? Well, dear brother, that's what I intend to find out. First, I retrieved this notebook and a pen from my car and settled on the kitchen counter. Then I called you on my cell and switched off my phone as I penned down all of this. You should be on your way here soon, as I have every reason to believe you're coming to rescue me from the impending blaze I intend to set in this place, with me inside it. You were always the heroic one, and now it's time for me to depart bit by bit. After all, a part of me has already ventured to wherever there is. The remainder of me is just playing catch-up. While I was perched on the counter, I cautiously slid one foot into the open drawer and closed it. I felt a slight sensation, nothing more. Raising my leg, I gazed at the stump where my foot once resided. I wiggled my absent toes, sensing their presence somewhere, patiently awaiting me. To describe this experience as challenging would be an immense understatement, but I've navigated well enough to assist the drawer in its consumption. Once I'd surrendered my other foot, I carefully inserted my legs into the drawer, one at a time, until they vanished from the knees down. Then I eased myself into the drawer until it reached my belly button. My sole remaining hand was enlisted to pull myself and the drawer shut. I felt a gentle tap on my lower body, and suddenly I was in free fall. Fortunately, my hand found the sink's edge, allowing me to hoist myself back onto the counter. I now find myself as half a man from the stomach upward, with only one arm left to complete this letter and lower myself into the drawer. Afterward, I'll wedge myself inside and seal the cabinet, reuniting with the missing pieces of me. Once more, I must urge you to inspect the floor for any stray fingers, should I happen to lose one while closing the drawer. If that occurs, kindly toss them in, one at a time. I'd rather not be incomplete wherever I'm headed. If my intuition serves me right, and if Mom is indeed on the other side, I promise to convey your love to her. Who knows? Perhaps you might even decide to join us there. Dear Arthur, I wanted to express my gratitude for your letter. I regret to hear that your final endeavor didn't unfold as smoothly as you had anticipated. Upon my entry into the kitchen, I was met with a rather unsettling sight. Your hand was creeping along the floor. In a moment of panic, I let out a startled scream and resorted to stomping on your hand repeatedly. I apologize for my reaction. I trust it didn't cause you too much discomfort wherever you may be. It leaves me pondering whether your hand acted with deliberate intent, seeking my shoe, or if it was instinctively reacting in a primal survival mode. Regardless, I impulsively tossed your eerie appendage into a nearby drawer of all places. Curiously, it feels as though the drawer possesses an appetite of its own, doesn't it? Perhaps it exerts some influence over this peculiar place and even over us. I eventually mustered the courage to reopen the drawer after coming across this notebook on the kitchen counter. I hope this letter finds you in good health, my brother, and that you remain whole. Since you've confided in me, allow me to reciprocate with a long-held secret of my own. Regarding the heroic narrative you mentioned, particularly when I fled to the neighbors, I didn't escape through my window. Instead, I made my exit through the rear door. However, before departing, I cautiously approached the kitchen doorway and bore witness to a grim scene. Dad was methodically placing Mom inside the very same drawer, piece by piece. This is why I've never been able to discuss that fateful day, not even with you. Throughout my life, I've been plagued by nightmares in which I see Mom in a surreal place where she's being reassembled, piece by piece. Yet her reattached head and limbs are ghastly, smeared with blood and grotesquely askew. She is complete yet devoid of life, her hands outstretched toward me. These nightmares have tormented me, causing me to wake up in sheer terror, a torment that continues to this day. I pray that if you did find Mom in a reconstituted state, she is the version you had hoped for and not the one that haunts my dreams. Just last night, another nightmarish vision unfolded before me. Mom was present in that bizarre place, but for the first time you stood beside her on contorted legs. Both of you appeared complete yet fragmented, not alive yet still reaching out to me. I apologize for sharing such a macabre vision, but I hope it elucidates why I dare not venture to join you. After consigning this notebook to the drawer, my intention is to set this place ablaze. Whether you term it mystical or magical, I care not what name you assign to this living aberration, because this letter is the final morsel it shall ever consume. May the drawer choke on it. Farewell, dear brother, and rest assured, I hold you in deep affection. Sincerely, Thomas.